Hello and welcome into the KE Report. I'm your host, Shad Markwitz, and I'm speaking today with Scott Petzel, president of Metallic Minerals, traded on the TSXV under the ticker MMG and on the OTCQB under the ticker MMNGF. And Scott, always great to have you on the show to get an update on Metallic Minerals. And today, we're really just going to do a year in review episode in the sense that you've done a lot of work on all three projects this year. I don't even think people realized you had three active projects going until 2023 really showed all of them were moving down the field, making progress. I want to start with La Plata just because you've just wrapped up the drilling for the year in Colorado at this copper precious metals focused project. And what would you say the key takeaways are for investors that maybe haven't followed along closely as far as all of the drilling done at La Plata, not just this year, but also up to date?
Well, let's just recap really quickly. We acquired this project in 2019 and began sort of systematically exploring the project. It's an old porphyry district that hadn't seen any work in it in over 50 years. And the systematic exploration, the application of mapping at surface and soil sampling and doing geophysical surveys with a focus on really advancing the part of the project that had been previously explored and held, a concentration of drilling that we were able to parlay into our inaugural resource in 2022 and then updated this last July that contains 1.3 billion pounds of copper equivalent with silver. It includes 17 million ounces of silver and does not include gold or platinum palladium, which are also elements of the deposit that will be added in subsequent resource updates. But we had our biggest program this year on the project, in part because of the funding that resulted from the great drill hole we had last year, 816 meters of 0.41% copper equivalent. That got the attention of a lot of majors, but particularly Newcrest, which is now Newmont, which is headquartered in Colorado and has an active gold mine in Colorado, where they now own 9.5% of Metallic Minerals. That netted us $6 million. And we were able to parlay that money into field work where we drilled 4,500 meters in 4 deep holes, offsetting that great hole that we had last year. And we're excited to see what those results bring. But we were in continuous intervals in each of those holes, intrusive porphyry style rocks and mineralization. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how those results turn out. We added a lot of information in terms of having very advanced hyperspectral surveys and applied a lot of technology to this deposit that wasn't there 50 years ago when Rio Tinto and Freeport-McMoRan were doing exploration in the district. So a lot of great technical advances and some good drilling that should provide some good results here early in 2024.
Well, Scott, another point I think we should make is that the majority of the drilling has been primarily focused at the Allard target, but because this is a porphyry style land package and deposit you're going after, there's other porphyry targets, other potential, I think you said 16 in the past, other targets that you're going after. In the future, are you going to start drilling some of those, or will the focus be to continue just growing the resources here at the Allard target area?
Well, I think it'll be a two-pronged approach. We definitely are into something that's interesting at the Allard, but you're absolutely right. This is an alkalic porphyry system that is generally very precious metal rich. And these types of deposits generally have multiple centers of mineralization. And to this point, we've documented 16 targets. I think that number is going to grow and change as we have learned a lot from the mapping work that we've done this year and the hyperspectral surveys, which are identifying things that are not visible to the human eye in terms of clay alteration as a result of these intrusive rocks, that help us vector to new target areas and with the idea of making new discoveries on some of these target areas, because all of the historic drilling, there's less now than 25,000 meters on the project, including the work that we've done, has all been focused within a kilometer square area of the deposit around the Allard resource. The 10 square kilometer footprint of the intrusive system has not yet been explored, and we're finding multi-percent copper at surface, over gram platinum grades at surface, close to half an ounce gold grades, multi-gram silver grades at surface from surface sampling that have never been followed up by drilling in the more distal parts of the property.
Well, it is going to be interesting to follow along with the drill assays as they come in the new year from that 4,500 meters of drilling you did at La Plata this year, especially since it ended with a real bang last year, ending in mineralization, and we'll get to see how things shape up for the 2023 drilling as those get reported. But let's shift over to the Keno Silver Project. You've had a pretty busy year there as well. Further de-risking the project, you've done some drilling there. I know you've got some results coming up in the new year here at the Keno Silver Project, but give us a recap of all the work the team did up in the Yukon this year.
Well, again, this is a property that was our flagship property when Metallic Minerals was formed in 2016, and largely our investor base has been on the backs of that project, where we're neighbors with Hecla, who has restarted production on the Keno Hill operations and mined over 700,000 ounces of silver in Q3 this year. And our exploration work on the eastern half of the project, the second largest landholding in the district, has really led to us developing over 40 targets of interest on the project, 11 of which that we've drilled since 2016 and had very positive results on all of those target areas. But we've got 5 of them that we're working towards advancing to a inaugural resource that we promised for this year, but it looks like it's probably going to slip into 2024 because of the drilling that we did this year. We only drilled 4 holes, roughly 1,000, a little over 1,000 meters, so very modest, but shallow holes. Mineralization that we're finding is very shallow, and we focus those 4 holes on what's known as our Formo target, which is an in-holding within the Hecla property, and will look to be the highest grade contributor and largest contributor to our inaugural resource. And we drilled extensions of the area that we knew of and found some really interesting stuff that we're really excited to get out and share with the public. But it's one of the reasons we held back on the resource announcement, is we wanted to include these holes in that announcement. So that should be forthcoming. We look to have those results out soon, and then follow that up in time with the inaugural resource announcement for the project. And it continues to be a very interesting place to make new discovery, but build a resource base that will eventually be of interest to either Hecla or some other major miner of silver in the future.
Well, and Scott, you mentioned the Formo target that have those higher grade veins and some of those higher grade targets you've gone after in this recent drilling. But maybe for people that haven't followed along with how you've segmented this down, you've kind of broken the Keno Silver Project down into an east, a central, and a west area, the Formo being in the west. You've got Caribou and Homestake in the central, and then in the east, you've got the Fox target, Zone 2, UKHM, and that's more of a bulk tonnage. So maybe just speak to the overall project, how it's got both the high grade and the bulk tonnage complementing one another.
Yeah, it's kind of a new thing for the district. You know, mineralization was first found in the district in the 1920s. The district itself is about 35 kilometers across, and that first discovery was on the western edge at the Silver King mine. And then we have largely the eastern half of the district, and a lot of the exploration historically was in the western section, and that's where Hecla's primary land position is and where their current resource of 120 million ounces is. But all the historic work over the last 100 years has really been focused on underground, high-grade, narrow vein type mining, and we've got that on our project in spades. But we also were able to make the discovery on this new style that is broader zones of lower grade that are bulk mineable. And all of the mineralization that we're finding is really close to surface. So at the Fox target that you mentioned in the far eastern part of the project, we've hit mineralization over 170 meters wide. that looks to have grades that could be comparable to, say, a Cordero or one of these big projects in Mexico that could be mined, bulk mined or open pit mined as we work to develop that project. And it seems to have some scale, and it's very early stages because it has very few drill holes into it at this point, but we'll look to continue to develop that story and see where it can get. And even at Formo, we're hitting massive sulfide veins, but within broader stringer zones that could be mined by open pit. And that open pit mining, or the bulk mining opportunities, are really much cheaper development costs than trying to develop high grade underground. So we're excited about what we're seeing. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of optionality, and a lot of chance for not only resource development and expansion, but new discovery.
Well, Scott, we will keep following along, and I know there's some key milestones coming up for 2024 at the Keno Silver Project, but I'd be remiss if we didn't fit in the third project, and that is really the Klondike Gold District. You have alluvial gold projects and land that you're able to option out to smaller operators and hold a royalty on those. And you did your first one this year, and I believe you've now gotten paid from it as well, which is exciting for the company. And that was the Australia Creek project. You optioned it to people will be familiar with Discovery Channel's TV show, The Gold Rush. Parker Schnabel and Little Flake Mining have been operating there this year. And so tell us about this particular royalty, but also the optionality for more deals just like this.
It's pretty amazing to me, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done and how we've positioned ourselves this way, because you do not see a lot of venture exchange companies that are in the exploration business that have income. Typically they're one-off. They've got their one project that they're pushing and trying to do exploration work on. Well, we've got 2 tier 1 assets and this alluvial royalty portfolio that's providing a little bit of cash for us to offset our exploration cost, or at least pay for back office costs. And so, as you mentioned, we have the agreement with Parker Schnabel, Little Flake Mining in our Australia Creek project in the historic Klondike district, the old Chilkoot Trail, the gold rush of 1898, part of that story. And we're the modern extension of that story with our ground in Australia and Melba Creek, where we have over 50 miles of alluvial claims. And we've done this deal with Parker, and he's beginning to mine. He had his first effort at mining this year, and we produced between 1,000 and 2,000 ounces at a 10 to 15% sliding royalty that provided income to Metallic Minerals to help sort of contain dilution for our investors. So I think that's a really neat thing. And the other part about it is it's expandable. We're the 3rd largest landholder of alluvial claims in the Klondike, or in the Yukon. And we're working towards the appropriate licensing and identifying additional operators to come in and take on pieces of ground so that we can multiply that royalty income, appropriately, to perhaps one day get to a point where we are self-funding all of our exploration costs. So that's the goal, and we're making progress that way, and we hope to continue to see those royalty revenues grow.
Yeah, Scott, that's an exciting project, and it's an exciting milestone for the company to be a revenue-generating exploration company that is very rare in the sector, and it's nice to see that'll help with funding some of the efforts on the other 2 projects. I guess just as we wrap up, what are the key milestones and news you want people to look out for in the year to come?
Well, I just mentioned, we talked about La Plata, we talked about Keno, we talked about the alluvial royalty. What's coming next down the pike here is likely an announcement on the results from our Keno Silver Project and the drilling there. That would be followed by an announcement on the results from our La Plata Project, which we hope to do by the end of January. And then we would have the inaugural resource announcement for Keno Silver to follow, and then eventually before midsummer an update on the La Plata resource that will now include both gold and platinum palladium, as well as the copper and silver. So a couple of really good news flow items coming at us here in the next several months. And then I just want to mention that we'll be also in attendance with Drill Core from our Plata Project at AME BC's Mineral Roundup in Vancouver in late January. And then at VRIC, the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, around the same time as Roundup. And then the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada's annual convention, or PDAC, in Toronto at March. And so if anybody's interested, they can come see a piece of these drill cores that we've created this year and talk to us and meet in person and learn more about the opportunities.
All right, Scott. Well, it sounds like you're going to have a busy year for investors to follow along with at all three projects. We appreciate you coming on and recapping how 2023 went. Looking forward to 2024. And if people want to follow along with the news from Metallic Minerals, definitely click on the link below this interview. It takes you over to the company's website and news section. And Scott, looking forward to talking to you in the new year.
Thanks, Chad. It's been great.